All right, and now we're going to get into NASCAR. This week was
Yeah.
crazy. As always, like we said, with our playoffs kind of going on and us learning about the sport, we're going to bring in our buddy Phil. Phil, say hello.
Hello, everyone. How we doing today?
There's Phil. I am good. Sam, are you good?
I'm good. Just got home like 10 minutes ago, it feels like. So getting it done.
It's kind of wild. So this
Yeah.
week, I know Phil's going to be excited because from what I saw, lots went down. Phil kind of shot us a text message of different things. I know, Hamlin and Briscoe moved spots in the standing, which I believe now makes Hamlin not safe. Briscoe is safe at the moment.
Hamlin's on the bubble.
Yeah, the other three stayed the same: Keselowski, Truex, and Burton, but they all might have moved points, I guess. I'm not sure.
Yes. -6 for Hamlin, -12 for Keselowski, -14 Truex, and -20 for Burton.
And then there was obviously the fact that none of the playoff drivers won.
Yeah.
And the race was just crazy. Lots of crashes. So let's let Phil, why don't you kind of go over what you thought the main details, and kind of fill us in what you saw.
Phil's going to.
And then I got your joke, Phil filling us in. It's a lot of Phil. Okay, golly, let Phil do his job. Phil, give it to us. What did you see? What was like the big news out of the race up in the Glen?
Yeah, so I mean, not even a lap into the race, there was about an 8-car wreck coming out of the bus stop. Denny Hamlin was in, Kyle Busch was involved, Christopher Bell, Ryan Blaney. Hamlin had a lot of damage and just basically suffered the rest of the day. For the most part, he did recover and get one stage point in the second stage because of strategy.
Okay. Oh, so they did return. I was going to say, I didn't know that any cars came back from the wreck. So at least Hamlin did.
One of the biggest stories about the early part of the race was Ryan Blaney.
Mm-hmm.
Something broke in his steering column, and he was unable to drive the car back.
Okay, interesting.
So there's this rule that's kind of up for talk this week is if you get towed back to pit road, you're out of the race. You can't return. You can't fix it.
Oh,
huh.
If the problem would have happened outside of a wreck, you're allowed to go to the garage area and fix the mechanical issue as long as it wasn't caused by a wreck. And there's also a rule where if they tow you back to pit road with 4 flat tires, you say you got in a wreck or you just blew out all your tires, pull you back, you can change the tires in the pit box and go back to the race. But they said that because he was in the wreck, and if you really look at it, he really kind of was just going through it.
Yeah.
They said he couldn't come back. They couldn't even work on it. The day was over, not even a lap into the race, and that really hurt him a little.
Blow. Yeah.
I mean, you can't run the whole race because of an issue. At least they would have given them the 6 minutes that they're allowed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He didn't get any of that, so he was not happy and said that he was going to have a conversation with NASCAR about it, and maybe it's a rule they can look into for
the future.
Is that something that's road courses only, or is that a super speedway, any kind of track thing?
That's any track. I mean, but I don't. In my opinion, he was going through the wreck. I didn't feel like he was like part of the wreck. If you look at his car, he didn't have a lot of damage.
Sure.
But they said because he was in the wreck that they couldn't and he couldn't drive it back, that they wouldn't let him back in the race.
So if he wasn't in the wreck and still got towed, is he still out?
It depends. It's really a judgment call. That's kind of like where the controversy lies.
I got
sure.
Like I said, look at his car. It didn't have hardly any damage at all. So, not sure what caused it. I'm sure they figured it out, by now, taking it back to the shop. But at the moment, they didn't know what was wrong, and they just knew it was a steering issue, and he couldn't drive the car. So,
it seems like that should be like really black and white. As just as much as like if you have to call a tow truck, you're done, and if not, then you can just make it black and white one way or the other. Like it sucks that if it's literally just you whatever, something simple that you can fix really easily, but if you can't drive on it, boom, you're done. Like to me, that's just how simple it should be, is just one or the other. If you have to get a tow truck, done.
Yeah, call it.
And tow trucks, like if these guys like stall out, they're allowed to push them to pit road, and they can make changes to whatever they need. Balls are not in the wreck, and the same thing, is with anything involving a tow truck. If it, 4 or 5 tires, they pull them back. He's allowed to stay in the race then, but he can if he has another issue. It doesn't quite make sense on my part, but I mean, I'm not NASCAR. They know they enforce it, so you got to respect what they do.
And so going into it, from what I was reading, how many cars did not finish based off the wreck? Just because I think it just says the two. There was AJ Allmendinger had a transmission issue. Ricky Stenhouse and Blaney both had accidents. Everyone else above it says they finished status was running. Does that mean only those three cars were the ones? So Ricky Stenhouse and obviously Blaney are the two that got hit the worst because they're actually still in the playoffs, correct?
Gotcha, yeah.
Well, I'll give you a stat that matters.
Okay.
That is 10 of the 16 drivers in the chase. I still call it the chase. In the playoffs, 10 of 16 were involved in a wreck.
Oh,
so
geez.
it was really just a demolition derby. But yeah, these cars are very, very tough.
Sure.
Like the old car. In the old car, you hit the wall or get hit somewhere, you're done. You're pretty much done. These guys can run each other, hit bumper cars really, really hard, and they can still continue on. I mean, these are tough for vehicles. So there's a lot of guys that were involved in things during the race, and they were able to go on, and that's why you saw so many finishers. That's probably that's a lot of cars on average for Watkins.
And then obviously the big news kind of coming out of it that I saw was, like you said, big crash, 10 of the 16 involved in some sort of wreck. But the finish was not a top 16 driver, which to me, I guess, is not like, because there's 38 or something cars, 40 cars. So top 16 is not, I mean, the odds obviously would tell you that, top 16 might not be the winner, but obviously they're considered the best driver. So you'd think that they would be in that. But obviously, two guys, I believe, that aren't even in the, like you said,
Busher,
the chase.
Who won it. And then Shane.
Shane Van
Gisbergen.
Gisberg. Sounds like a guy from the Netherlands or something. But so those two guys obviously had a really fun last lap. Does that show you anything? Like, have these guys been competitive all year, or is this kind of just like a crazy race for both of them? What do you see out of these guys?
Busher was in the playoffs last year. He won 3 races for RFK. That's for Brad Keselowski. It's his teammate, so he's a known winner. It was not a shock at all. He won a race. Shane Van Gisbergen won the inaugural Chicago Street Race last year. That's
I do remember that now.
He is a known Australian V8 supercar champion. He's run on road courses his whole life, so for him to come over to America and win in his first Cup start at Chicago was not a surprise. Maybe it was a little bit surprise to NASCAR, saying that. I remember Alex Bowman said he literally just came in here and whooped our butts.
Sure, but he's obviously a proven, like you said, he's a proven driver. He's done it for a long time.
Since then, he's been, he was part-time last year, and he's full-time in the Xfinity Series this year, and he's going to be full-time in the Cup Series next year.
Oh, wow, good for him.
Nice.
Third Trackhouse car with Ross Chastain and who's the other one?
Daniel Suarez.
Daniel Suarez.
Isn't that Pitbull's team?
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah. Mr. Worldwide.
So Gisbergen is probably one of the best road course racers in the world. Was in all day today or yesterday. Or excuse me, it's Tuesday, isn't it, guys?
It is Tuesday. We're a day off, yeah.
Back on Sunday, he led a lot of the race and ran up front. So it's for him to be up front, and honestly, was really good the whole race. So no surprise on either of these guys. And I mean, that last lap pass at Watkins Glen, that's almost every year. So
that's cool.
Watkins Glen's one of the top tracks, in my opinion, as far as excitement for each race each year. And I think that's what makes it special, being, they only go there once a year. It's one of the biggest camping destination racetrack in NASCAR. I mean, I used to sell for Watkins Glen. I used to sell camping and tickets up there, and I'm telling you, it is like the most packed house in NASCAR. So great track, great finish again. And, it's simply, again, going to the bus stop, that was kind of the area of the racetrack all day where there was problems. That's where that big wreck was on lap 1. Literally, Gisbergen went in there a little too hot and kind of got wide coming out of the bus stop, and Busher was really good through there and took advantage of it and got under him in turn 1. or excuse me, in the carousel. Hit him in the right rear, knocked him out of the way. Basically, paid him back for Gisbergen running him out of the way earlier in the race. So it was all fair and good game. It was clean in my opinion, and
nice.
The fans went nuts, man. It was just it was a great race, and I told you beforehand it was going to be. So
you did say that.
Yeah, it sure met our expectations. That's for sure.
Well, you're selling yourself to want to go there. For as much as you go, I don't want to watch a road course in person. You're selling yourself. The best camping, the best. It's got some of the best finishes. One of the best tracks. You're selling yourself.
Thanks for listening to the Kinda Athletic podcast. Please like and subscribe to all our social media platforms, and make sure to come back next week to hear more from the Kinda Athletic podcast.